From 19th of March 2019, unprecedented flooding continued for several weeks, affecting 25 out of 31 provinces. 78 people were killed, over 1,000 were injured, almost 400,000 were displaced. 2 million need assistance, 10 million have been affected. Agricultural areas in Golestan, Lorestan, and Khuzestan provinces have been affected. The government has estimated damages in the health sector of around $300 million and around $1.5 billion in the agricultural sector. However, real figures might be even higher. The government's rescue and relief, early warnings and evacuation measures saved lives and protected properties. Impacts on people's livelihoods is significant. 1.8 million livelihoods were directly affected. The government and the UN are conducting a livelihoods needs assessment and are initiating the post-disaster needs assessment. The UN has been supporting the government and the people of Iran right from the beginning of this disaster. We visited the affected provinces of Lorestan, Golestan, Ilam, and Khuzestan. Loss and damage is significant. The UN has already provided emergency health supplies including communicable, non-communicable diseases, cholera, and trauma kits, as well as reproductive health supplies. Vaccine cold chain equipment to restore essential immunization services. Dignity kits for women and girls containing essential hygiene, sanitation, and protection supplies. Emergency shelter kits and household items, and family food parcels. The UN is also providing technical assistance to the government, including on the framing of short, medium, and long-term interventions to address early recovery and livelihoods. We wish to recognize that Iran has been generously hosting refugees, mainly Afghans, for 4 decades. It is heartwarming to see how the needs of these groups have been responded to. After immediate life-saving assistance, the UN with the international community continues to support government-led efforts for mid-term and long-term strategies to prevent and mitigate the impact of natural disasters. Our response plan, which consists of 6 sectors, targets 115,000 of the people most affected in 4 provinces. But this plan is a small portion of the overall government-led recovery effort. For the health sector, the UN is helping to improve access to life-saving and essential public healthcare services, including sexual and reproductive health services. For education, to ensure school students continue their education and receive psychosocial support. For water, sanitation, and hygiene, to ensure affected communities receive safe water, hygiene, and sanitation, and that water and sanitation services are restored. For protection, to ensure affected people have access to community-based psychosocial support and that women and girls receive services related to their specific protection needs. For shelter, to ensure that affected houses and community infrastructures are restored. The UN will focus on early recovery across all sectors with a specific focus on livelihoods. In addition to the $1.4 million that agencies mobilized in kind, the UN received an additional of $2 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund for this response plan, of which $600,000 for agencies to restock their supplies already provided and $1.4 million for additional supplies and services for affected people. However, SIR funds represent only 8% of the response plan needs. We call on the international community for your generous support for the full implementation of this response plan. We are strongly committed to multilateralism, and the UN will continue to engage with the international community to support the government of Iran and people in need. Funding the UN is one way to support the most vulnerable affected by floods. The UN is in Iran to make a difference. Our goal to leave no one behind.